Well, thank you for making time.
Thank you for making
Of
time.
course. Yeah. Catch up with me the last 6 months, generally.
Okay, I'm alive, which is very helpful. And a lot of building, a lot of realigning. I think it's been a really interesting time of understanding where your weaknesses are and where your strengths are. And then also having this look in the mirror and going, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Also being cornered by competition, which is interesting. So that's...
Really?
Yeah. And I think, you have an option when you get cornered. You either step up or step out. That's kind of the situation. For me, I love to step up and I love to just pivot. And it's really brought up a whole new set of problems at AdBeacon that I'm sure everybody's going to lose their shit over. But then I also think it's a huge opportunity to grow, and we have. So that's our last 6 months.
Okay. So there's a lot of software involved. We don't have any software that we own or have to build. Yeah, we can introduce her. Yeah. Phoenix, CEO, AdBeacon.
Hi.
Great friend. I don't even think there is a long introductory for that. I can't put it in. I met you Geek Out. I saw you speak as well. And you were the reason why I could help. I think at the time it was 10 clients. I couldn't provide the value to the clients to tell them what the real value of any return was, or returning customers, cost per acquisition.
Yeah.
So all that e-com nerd stuff, that was eye-opening.
Wait, do you remember our first interaction? Because I remember it very clearly. Actually, my husband
What do you
remembers it.
I remember meeting your husband.
Yes.
It was right after you spoke, I believe.
Yes.
In Nashville. What do you remember about it?
So it's funny. I literally just texted him before we recorded, and he's like, snacks, right? Bring snacks. I was like, yes. He remembers, and I remember, I'm standing up there, and there's one person just raises his hand, it was you, that had a very direct question in terms of media buying strategy. Because at the time I was, Ashton Shanks spoke right before me on his methodology of how to scale with Meta. And then Shaq had asked me to kind of create an easier version, something that you could follow.
Something you could actually read and...
Right. And
someone
apply.
like me with an 8th grade reading level, I was like, we should probably... Do you have the dumber... Do you have the simplified version of this? Can we...
Sometimes simple is best, in my opinion.
Well, when you're spending a lot on ads, you could get really analytical really quick, and that was my biggest fear.
Yeah, and also too, 90% of media buyers, the top media buyers, are using very simple structures. Yeah. And then I think when you get a little complex, and no knock to Ashton, or yes, knock to Ashton. Just kidding. He's my boy.
I don't want heat.
I'm just kidding. No. I think anyway, so, I came in with that, and you asked some really direct questions. And at first I thought, he just wants to challenge. And then I was like, no, he's hungry. And I loved it. And I remember Ryan, my husband, he took me aside. He's like, that guy.
Yeah.
Pour into him if you can. And then naturally our paths crossed again down the road with AdBeacon, but you definitely made a really great impression, at least for me. And I'm so grateful that we continue to be friends, and where you're doing.
Even just hearing that, totally different perception from what I saw, because I'd assume going to a marketing event, Shaq has an amazing culture. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't there. But I've seen people that speak at events, you can tell they're like, I just hope people don't come up to me and try to get something out of me, or try to figure out how much you're making, or try to, how many team members do you have is a good one. So it's I could tell that you just spoke, and then I was like, okay, the only reason I'm here was to figure out tracking. So I listened to you, because all the events I go to, I don't listen to all the people speaking.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I think it was in Colorado a few years ago, and Taylor Welch was there talking about money and talking about it's not what you make, it's what you use, or what you steward with it and what you put away. And I was like, I just learned how to have business. What do I do? And everyone's looking at me like, how are you even in this room right now? And it's because I'm going to the money guy, otherwise he's going to be doing other stuff. Mm-hmm. So when you were there, I've heard Ashton, and also Ashton always like DMs me and texts me. So like, he's always helped me with media buying. So you didn't go into media buying, you went into what media buying can be for your client and how it can benefit them. And then that by default keeps clients. And everyone that I was in a circle with, or at least seeing, is they were having 60-day drop rates. They sign up and then all that. And then when we had one collaboration with a brand, you delivered, you're like, hey, here's a 30, 60, 90-day plan for you. Use this template so that way it'll give you a little bit of guidance. I was like, I didn't even know we should probably make that clear, you know? So there's a lot of things where it's just like, I think a lot of people don't lower their pride. Because if you have true confidence, your lack of ability to solve something, it doesn't make you dumb. It just shows that you haven't learned it yet. And then it just comes down to willingness and the time to do it. So that has nothing to do with like who you are.
Oh, you nailed it.
So it's like if you walk into a room with a bunch of rich people, the last thing you want to do is try to be rich. You're going to be saturated, and then you can tell it's not, I don't know. If you go into, I guess what I meant to say is like, if you go to an event or a room where there's a lot of intelligent people, if you're going to be transactional, like, hey, so this thing, like just really quick, how do you scale this $100,000 budget? It's very intentional because there's no room for gray area. Like, otherwise you're just ruining opportunities to meet with people.
I mean, I think you nailed it. Like, there's a lot of rich people. Anyone can get rich. I know a lot of people don't believe that, but anyone can get rich.
Yeah, a lot of dumb people are rich too. I didn't know that.
But intelligent people
yeah.
in those rooms are attracted to intelligence.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's the biggest distinction is regardless if you are wealthy or rich or successful, it doesn't matter if you can bring intelligence to the table.
Yeah.
And then you match that with efficacy and you can match that with a good heart and genuine intentions. I don't care. And we can be here. So like, I think you definitely pierced the room for me, at least in that capacity, because I can't even tell you, I'm very blessed that I've been able to be in some big rooms to be able to speak. Yeah. But then there's always this joke, right? It's like where I was, where I am now, where I'm going. And that's how you introduce yourself. And I can't stand that because to me, I'm like, yeah, but who are you? Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't, because that could be gone tomorrow. Like my testimony is that I lost everything and then I regained it back, and I'm fully expecting to lose everything again. Yeah. But at least I can look at myself in the mirror and I know I can like fall back.
If I lose, I'm losing me swinging. Like that's a lot better off than just failing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So the main thing is, but what I love about events, even if you take, let's say All Odds Against You, and you're with a bunch of people that are characters, opinionated, and you get all of that you hate, you can still walk into that room. If you show up like you have to show up unconditionally, because you might be in that room for them, and you may not know that because you're seeing them and putting them as an idol, but you don't know if you say something to them and then they're dealing with it at home, and that one moment, so it's like, it's not always about you either.
It should never be about you. As a speaker, I'm going to come in as a speaker. Okay. Yeah. So, I spoke to a couple different people, I think Shaq too. And, he told me something that was really sweet. He's like, you have executional excellence. And I told him, I was like, if I have the honor to be in front of people, especially people who have paid to be here, and depending on their journey and their story, and you've shared yours in the past, it's like, you don't know how hard someone fought to be in this space. Yeah. Give them the best they can possibly have. Like, what do you leave with on this earth? Knowledge that nobody else got. Congratulations, you didn't do anything for this world. Yeah. So for me, when I went in there, I was like, number one, I want it to be beautifully done. So to me, aesthetically, that's just who I am. I need to aesthetically look good. Yeah. And it needs to have value, and it needs to be easy to understand, and they need to have a takeaway, and it needs to be simple enough for a 5-year-old to understand. So I used to get...
That's why I loved the deck.
Okay, good.
The
5-year-old component,
No, the deck that you're talking about, it was breaking down how to properly allocate $30,000 a month for e-com. I remember at the Lighthouse, it had that, and I remember that's what I would show my clients to be like, see, so this is the methodology we're doing here. And they were like, that looks really great. And I was just like, you didn't say that about my deck. Anyway, but really that's the takeaway for that. For me, it was, I'm in a room with people that are spending tens of thousands of dollars a month, and they're looking at me sideways if it's not multiplying. So I see that as like, there might be something I'm missing here where if I understand this leverage, I can hopefully use that and help people's businesses. That's why I loved Attribution. Because then whenever the client's like, well, how many of those were new customers? Well, the campaign says this, or it's like, how long do they stay for? If they bought this product, did they buy a different product? Well, what percentage of them did that? And it's just the ultimate cheat. Like, it's a cheat code.
And it's your job to know that. And often we don't have access to know that.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's why we built AdBeacon. Like,
Yeah.
not to plug, but I'll plug. It's
Plug away. We use it. It's amazing.
well, honestly, okay, let's come back to the point, right? What you were saying and why you came to listen to attribution specific and tracking rather specific talks is because at that time when iOS 14 had hit, I lost 40% of my book of business. So imagine looking at your CEO, like this is the person holding your salary, and he's like, figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, sure. And I tried out a lot of different platforms who are my now competitors. And I realized a couple different things. But I think the number one thing is every time I would report what Facebook was saying, it would be like really great numbers. And then you go to Shopify and it was like a fraction of that.
And then you go to the financial guy for the P&Ls, and then he's looking at you sideways.
And then it
Yeah.
takes like 2 seconds to
Yeah.
lose someone's confidence in you.
Yeah.
And it takes a world to build that trust back. So for me, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And this is hurting us because as many times as I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, I made you $50,000. The guy goes, hey, I only have $30,000 in my bank account. So stop.
Yeah.
And I think you have to take a step back from your pride, which is
Yeah.
what you said, and go, we need to fix this, which
Yeah.
is why we built what we built, is to prove every dollar. But like, I was in the same situation you were in.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that we were able to like
Yeah.
bring some clarity there. But yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah. And also very affordable. That's the only plug I'm doing. Because at the time, I was still really struggling just to get the resources of software for my clients.
Yeah.
And then I just earned their trust, made them a little bit of money. Then if I told them, hey, you need this software, that's technically 80% of my retainer, they're going to go, oh, now we're back to not making money again, and now I have to prove the software. Instead of me being like, oh, I'll just cover, like, I have these tools for you already because
Correct.
we have these partnerships. So that definitely helped me. Why I have you here in person, because I really, really, really wanted to go over. So the term attribution, dumb it down for me, because then I have a question about it.
Okay. Five-year-old.
5-year-old terms.
5-year-old. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So attribution in the simplest terms is who gets credit for a sale or a lead within a given amount of time. So there's 2 factors.
Okay.
Who and amount of time. So who gets credit and amount of time. So in Facebook, for example, they want credit within 7 days of clicking or 1 day of viewing. So there's 2 forms of attribution. There's view and click. View is if I saw this ad, I get credit. I being Meta.
Yep.
If I clicked on this ad, I get credit from a tangible click. 7 days of clicking versus 1 day of viewing, right? So who gets credit for a sale or lead within a given amount of time?
Okay.
Right? But here's the thing. Now diversify the portfolio. You've got Bing, Google, Meta,
Across all the
Pinterest, TikTok,
platforms.
amongst all of them. Okay. So when you look at both of those forms of attribution in different time windows, there's a lot of variables there. Now let's complicate it even further, which is the problem. There's view versus click. The problem I have personally with view is that the definition of view is not public. That's a huge problem. There's no formula out there that tells you what Meta considers as a
What they're saying
view.
is, really?
Yeah, so
How are
view-
they getting away with that?
I mean, it's proprietary. So imagine you're like protein powder, right? You don't know the ingredients to your protein powder. It's their secret sauce.
So how they collaborate the data?
It's a formula. So imagine, again, there's view metrics, which are hard metrics, right?
Yeah.
How long someone viewed your ad.
Yeah.
You could have your thumb stop ratio, your hook rate. Those are hard metrics. But the proprietary blend of metrics that validates that they should get credit within a day is not public. And here's the worst part of it. Google's definition versus Meta's versus TikTok's are all different. So imagine now, like, I'm going into, and this is what I discovered when I was building AdBeacon with my partners, is that you go in there and you're like, wait a minute. And then you can split it out by 7-day click and 1 day view. In many cases, 60% of the revenue that's reported is 1 day view. And that's within 1 day. But 7 days of clicking is the extra 40%.
Oh.
Here's the thing though. Click is completely the same across every platform. It is a tangible touch.
Yeah.
So that was the big like red flag that I had first, because I'm like, I can't prove any of this view. And again, like if you look at a billboard, who's to say that that didn't influence you to buy, but there's no way to track it.
Yeah.
And then ethically as a media buyer, you're going, I think
I'm going to put the secret sauce on the client and put the act up, and then I got to go back and figure it out, and hopefully I make them enough money.
right. And then you have to think about platforms.
And then I got to go make VSLs about how I'm a great media buyer.
Oh my gosh. But then here is also the problem, is that there's a lot of other platforms that create their own definition of view.
Yeah.
Okay. Or they blend view with click. But then you're back to the problem. You're back to this black box BS thing that you just can't explain. So at the bare bones of it, for me, click attribution, again, who gets credit for a sale or lead within a given amount of time, is the only valid and tangible proof you can provide.
Do you guys struggle with taking all of the sophistication of that and then having to educate it with decision makers of companies, knowing that they have no clue about any of this? Like, how does it work with people that are completely
Absolutely. Yeah.
not knowledgeable?
Okay, so Dean, you own this giant company that makes all this money, and now it's on a somewhat of a decline. So now you have issues, and you're going to go, okay, what is this? You explain this to me. And I always go, do you ever get frustrated when media buyers or agencies that you work with tell you a number and you scratch your head and you go, that's not true? And they're like, yeah. And almost 99% of the time that's true. Then I go, it's not their fault. You have a tracking issue, and it's not for something that they did. It's because of data and privacy security. And if you don't have a platform to fix it, you're missing out. The top media buyers are winning because they're using these tools, and other people that are like, I think I would say novice users are flying in the dark. So you have to choose which one you want to be.
It's like if you had a clear black and white for stock trading, where the stock's going to go, or like what the true value is, but for media buying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I like to say, if you want to drive and you want to drive your eyes closed or your eyes open, let me know. That's the difference.
Like, don't you have a Tesla?
Not anymore. That thing died. So I don't even want to talk about it. It's a sore spot. But yes.
I don't even know if we can say that word. Will we get deplatformed? All right.
It unalived.
Okay. So the reason I asked that, so I guess what I have here in notes, and these are just my best efforts of my notes for the past week. So to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, you're really helping with attribution by exposing a brand's true holistic value that wouldn't have seen it without the proper understanding of what's really happening.
Yes.
Because I can assume you can also, we were talking about this before, how we even say service industries they should be frictionless, just like e-com, to where if the service is so good, it should just be the same outline as e-com. But like with that said, it's like, it sounds like the attribution problem for home services or larger companies, if you think of like a distribution center, it's no different than a distribution center for e-com. And if you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars a day, the difference between 1 day view, 7 day clicks, or views or clicks, no matter what it is, you could be losing millions of dollars if you don't know where it's coming from. So it is an ad, it does get you better ROAS and return on ad spend, but you now have proof and documentation to take to decision makers to properly spend the dollars.
I always think attribution is the base level. Like it's literally just the foundation. It's not the product. It's not the solve. It's the bare minimum. And then what you do with it takes it to another level. So what we do is we prove every dollar that's reported with a first and last name, an order ID, an entire journey, customer journey. So if they clicked on a Google ad, then a Facebook ad, then we show all of that.
Customer journey.
Right. What they bought. Right. All of that. So that's just attribution. That is at the lowest level of proving the dollars.
That should not be the new standard. It's like if you don't have these things, that just expose that you literally are driving dark. Yeah.
Right. And then you take it up a notch because it's like, okay, now that I know that Dean bought, is he a new customer or is he a returning customer? And with first party data and attribution, which is what we do, we have that because we link directly with your storefront. So we know if they're a new or returning customer. Now I'm able to know the cost per acquisition for a new customer. And if Facebook is better at acquiring new customers at the lowest cost versus Google, we can also see if they buy more.
With the marketing dollars.
Right. Now we know they can buy more. What's the lifetime value of somebody that's coming from a specific ad? It becomes so much more sophisticated. And as you grow, those dollars mean more, in my opinion, to continue to grow without just blindly putting something in one area and then thinking that it's going to work because Facebook or whatever tells you. Yeah.
Do you think the testing phase is going to go away with technology getting better and better?
You mean the learning phase or the testing phase?
Yeah, just not in like Facebook terms, but like, oh, we have to do an unbeatable offer. Then we need to test it, even if it is unbeatable and it's great. You still don't know until you get the return. Do you think it's going to come to a stage where these platforms are like, if your service is really good and you were just horrible at branding and advertising, now you put in your website and then it comes down to a money play of how much do you want to give us, and then we'll give you everything your heart's desire, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a psychological play. I think every generation rejects the generation prior. So let's look at, for example, fast fashion. What just closed this week? Forever 21. Right, and people are going towards more sustainable clothing.
21 closed?
Yeah, Forever 21 closed its door.
Well, it's gotta watch the news.
They filed bankruptcy.
What else is happening?
Yeah. So by the way, the world is ending. No. Yeah. So Forever 21 basically folded. Right. They filed for bankruptcy, and that's fast fashion. You're seeing a decline with companies like even Cotton On, or what's the other one, Zara.
Yeah.
And these were I'm 31, so this is where I spent the majority of my money growing up. And then the prior generation to me was buying designer. And then my generation was, I don't care about designer. Now sustainability, but also like high end. So like men are wearing and buying shirts that are really expensive, like $30 shirts, but they last longer.
Yeah.
Right, versus these $10, $5 shirts that break apart.
Quick. Yeah.
So again, I think it's all psychology. It's buy-in. Same with ads. Everyone's like, you just need to pump out as many ads as possible. Like that was the biggest thing. And now it's value-based ads.
Yeah.
Like for service industry, a lot of people always ask me, like, for example, estheticians or plumbers, they're like, what do we do to stand out? I'm like, exactly, you have to stand out. And if you are a service-based company, they
change your thought process.
They need to know who you are and why they need to go to you instead of somebody else. You don't even need to offer them anything.
Yeah.
If you do offer them something, give them something they care about, because how many times you go to a website, it's expected you get 10 to 20% off. Actually, it's a joke if you get 10% off because that's tax in California.
And it better have free shipping, and it better not be selling on Amazon if I'm buying from your store, because if it's not getting here by this afternoon, I'm going to be really pissed off.
Correct. We have fed the beast, and now you have to pivot and adjust to the beast. So yes, I agree with you that offers aren't going to be the only play. I think you really have to just go away from this commercial idea that this is going to convert someone if someone just knows about your name.
Yeah.
Like, you really have to think about it as a consumer rather than on the other side. If I'm going to look for a plumber, I want to be able to see what he looks like before he comes in as a female, so I feel comfortable within my home.
And it better be tracking, and
exactly.
better have all those things. Yeah.
And my husband's going to want to look at this and go, okay, I feel comfortable knowing that this person's coming into our home potentially, even if it's not that person providing the service.
We had some creeper for, no, we won't. Home service is, it's really bold.
Yeah.
And then the service alone, I thought agency owners were like scammy, or like, I'd honestly take the worst of the worst agency owners over some of the service businesses, and how much they just don't care.
And then the ones that do care, they really stand
They thrive.
out.
Yeah, the people that used to have this place, it's a roofing company, and it's a young guy that has it, and he's blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just did my mom's house, and they're like, it's amazing. And then they did the person next door, and I was like, oh, they're fast, efficient, and they actually do it right. And I was like, oh, this guy's smart. But then it's like, I did 3 roofing quotes for my house, and it took 4 months. It's like, oh, so you just don't have to be horrible, and you have to be decent, and you'll take all the business. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
What does that mean? If that is true, what does that mean for us if we're trying to grow companies and get talent? Well, I guess the best will rise, but like...
Have you ever read the book E-Myth? The E-Myth? It's... I have a book club, and this is really literally to force myself to read business books instead of fairy books and dragon books. But I'm reading this right now, and that's why it's top of mind. And it talks about hiring talent that's aligned. It also talks about how to become a differentiator and why small businesses fail and why certain businesses thrive. And it talks about like a through message. So you kind of just spark something in me like a barber. And they use this as an example. You go to the barber does a great job. When you come to him, he uses scissors or shears, or doesn't use those shears, I don't know. Doesn't use the...
I'm balding. I don't know.
I'm dead.
I'm going full 007. I want to be...
Okay, so
I'm not the right person for hair.
Okay, well, I'm still going to talk about this example.
Shout out to Bailey though, fresh fade.
Thank you. Yeah, so he basically got top-notch service, and then the assistant would give him a coffee. And then the next time he comes in, he might get a coffee, but only one time, and they're using different tools. And then the last time they came in, he got really a great haircut again, but didn't get coffee, didn't get the service here. So he decided, you know what, I'm just going to leave. You know, as somebody that is an operator or is a service-based provider, you don't think about those things. You're just trying to make it work and go. But people come to you because they love the product first and they want that consistency, and the line only goes up. It doesn't go down. And then you're faced with so much competition. It's important to keep that standard and consistency. And people don't realize consistency is actually the top-notch thing for LTV, unlock, and retention. So I think when you start to hire and people are invested and they're bought in, you have set this standard. No one goes below this standard. And then I think also, too, whoever you hire has to raise that standard. And I don't know if I answered your question directly, but that was super top of mind when we talk about service providers and how to maintain and how to continue to thrive in today's day and age.
Well, I was just thinking, it's like, I could see agencies getting really good with getting more leads for company, and has nothing to do about their marketing. Maybe that marketing team has a really good person heading sales and also heading up leadership, and really they come in on the back end and they're really helping them making better service, which by default, once you throw fire on it, that's what then grew the company.
Yep.
Which is why you can't really compete for just a funnel.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Quote from that book: "If your business depends on you, you don't own a business. You have a job." Michael E. Gerber.
Wow. Full circle.
Prepared.
I like this.
I noticed. I paid attention.
You paid attention? Yeah. This is good.
How do you manage all of this stuff? Because at a surface level, my first impression was, okay, Phoenix was a media buyer. The tools that were available were not cutting it. So then you made the tool to then do great media buying. But to do that, you'd have to then be really good at media buying and understand the whole entire process. It's not just praises, but that takes a lot of time to structure. So like, how do you deal with structuring when you have something in your life, you're like, I'm going to have to build this. And then you come to the realization, you're like, okay, I'm really going to have to do this. So this is going to require a lot from me, away from my friends, family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, taking that next step, knowing that that's what you have to do, like, how do you process all that?
First, you have to have an awesome team. Like, I have an amazing team. And I don't just mean in business, because I do, and I'm very lucky, but also in your home. So what most people don't know is when I went into media buying, I was completely just like, I didn't know what I was doing. And then on top of that, I was getting my EMBA. So it's basically an executive's master in business. And I did it during COVID, and that was when I didn't have any money. I was unemployed because I had been laid off because of COVID, and I just went in blind. So I'm learning something completely new. I'm also getting my MBA. I'm managing a team because suddenly I got a team. All of this stuff is happening. And my now husband, at the end of the day, I'd be like shaking and just like laying on the floor, like, okay, I got through the day. And I'm sure any business owner can like attest to this. And he would bring me food and make sure I was good and like take me outside and lay down the blanket and go, you need you time, right? Like, it's not all about what you can do by yourself. And I've noticed entrepreneurs, and I've called them out every single time, there is this glorification of doing it on your own. There's this glorification of going to the extreme and then burning out. And here's the pattern I see is you burn out because you sacrificed everything, because that's what they tell us. You sacrifice everything for the ultimate goal, including relationships, love, family. And then you get to the point where you don't even know who you are anymore. And then you go backwards. And I've noticed this. People get to a point where they're not happy health-wise, so then they start to lose a bunch of weight, get really strong, and go backwards. They start to read, and then they start to try to find a wife, if it's a male, or a husband, and they sacrificed all those things to get to a very lonely peak. What I decided very early on, and I have a different lens, is I came from money. And my family is they're very blessed, but they earned every dollar. But I didn't get to touch any of those dollars, right?
Yeah.
I got to watch them build, but I also watched what they sacrificed, and I'm also a part of the sacrifice.
Yeah.
So I have a different lens. So for me, I make sure that I have time with my husband because I want a husband.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that my family knew they were a priority, but they also needed to know I was building.
Yeah.
Friends too, if my friends didn't understand that I was building, then they didn't need to be in my life at the moment. But
Yeah.
if they needed me, I'd drop every call to be there. I would drop, my friend, she had to get jaw surgery. Her mom called me and said, hey, she's asking for you. It was one of the hardest days ever because I was getting pounded by client calls, dropped everything.
Yeah.
It's a give and take. You just have to know who you are and what you want, and then you stand by that because those clients will also see it, and then they stand by you. So it's not all about climbing to the top and drowning in the process.
I think people take on that persona and pride into I'm doing this all on my own, and they go down that route because they already know that they're going to sabotage themselves and they know how it plays out. And if they play that out, then they wouldn't have to deal with the way that they actually were successful because it's really the demons of who they're not is really that's a really comfortable place to be in. And if you know what you're doing and you see something that's really big, that would probably, you could see that that would require the very successful corporate head that has a lot of control, but his home life is bad and he doesn't have that respect. Maybe that will then play into his business and then he will XYZ, or someone has a lot of potential and you always see that they self-destruct once they get the proper opportunities because they don't really believe in themselves and they don't see themselves that way and they don't value themselves that way. So it's either surface level or it's a deeper, they don't value themselves there. So why would I even shoot the shot? So then you get the other version of them.
You get a lot of self-destruction. Like I see so many people with different personality types and upbringings, and a lot of the through line that I see is very self-deprecating talk, and they use that as inspiration. So a lot of sports specific mentality. Like my husband's a baseball player, so his way of motivating himself is putting himself down when he's on the mound. He was a lefty and he just talked shit to himself.
Yeah.
And we talk about that now, and I'm like, but that's not true confidence. That isn't, because I think the only way to be successful, and again, I'm trying every day to be whatever success means to me, it's being confident with the decisions you make, especially in the position that you're in and that I'm in, is you have to make decisions.
Yeah.
Really hard ones or really easy ones, whatever, but you have to stand by them. And you can't be here and there, but you can't just be bulldozing through something with no rhyme or reason just because you have to put all your chips down just like you would in gambling, which I notice a lot of people do, and sometimes it pays off, and then that's why I said anyone can be rich.
Yeah.
But there's got to be strategy for sustenance, and you have to sustain.
Yeah.
My biggest thing, and to answer your question, is I have ADHD. It is very difficult to take what's in this brain and systematize it. I am my worst enemy, but you have to stretch yourself and know what your weaknesses are and face them head on. I'm still figuring it out, but that's really helped me. And in doing so, I also think it's really important to learn how to be rejected. I think that's the only way to do well, because I modeled, and that was my MO. You'd go into...
Not that whole industry it isn't making women feel bad about themselves, but it's if you're not enough, you're not enough.
You're a product. If you can disassociate and say, okay, my looks are my looks, I can't change them.
And this is the industry.
It's not even that. It's okay, I have a sportswear brand that is Asian focused, and a Caucasian girl comes in. That's not who I'm looking for because my demographic is Asian.
Yeah.
Okay. You reject her. and she now hates herself. That sucks, right? No one prepares someone for that type of rejection. Now take that to another level is I'm ethnically ambiguous, and I grew up in a time where Wilhelmina models and Ford models were stick thin and were white. And you go into the space and they gas you up. These people make you feel on top of the world when they meet you, and they basically make you think you got the job. So then you're planning what you're going to spend your money on. And again, it's a 90-day payout. So you have to keep working, or otherwise you're broke. So then you never get the job. And after, I think, years, and I started when I was 10. So like I've been in the industry for a long time to know that nothing's real until it's written in stone. Yeah. So for me, getting that rejection is so easy. So then when you come into a room to give something, a service, or provide something that someone needs, and then they say no, you don't take it personally.
Yeah.
A lot of people take things personally and they self-destruct, or they tie their job with their value, or they tie their business with who they are in value. And then I just see you can get rich, but you can break it down real quick. So that's my long-winded answer to your very simple question. But yeah.
No, it's because I just think about how many people wake up every day and they live the life of dependent how other people treat me, or if someone else is having a bad day and they mistreat me or see it as them mistreating me, that gives me the right to live my life then completely disrailed, and that's how easy it is for me to have a bad day. So that when I hear validation, or obviously I was in modeling, but I can't even imagine being in modeling or anything, but like for media buying, marketing, entrepreneur, that was the hardest thing I had to overcome, was like ask myself, leaving events or doing business, why am I really doing business with these people? Is it aligned with what I'm doing? And yeah, it's been very interesting to see how everything's playing out, and really want to go over the last thing here.
Okay.
AI. Okay. For creative, because I love AdBeacon's, I love the dashboard that you guys have for top performing creatives. We talked about like at a stage where your offer really matters, and we don't have to do a bunch of testing. But let's say the testing we're doing is based upon top performers and all good data. What is that going to start looking like for us, for creative agencies, utilizing creative with AI, and then just things that I'm completely overlooking? Because right now with AI, I'm overwhelmed, and I just figured out that there's AI for different metrics, for actions, written content, now creative. How do you see that impacting the next like year or so?
Yeah, so this is a multi-pronged question that I'm just going to get really deep with, so buckle up.
That's why I made it the last one.
Buckle up. Yeah. Okay, first and foremost, you can't work with flawed data. I'm not going to say bad data. You can't work with flawed data. So a lot of what people are doing right now, agency-wise or creative team-wise, is they take whatever Meta is saying or these platforms are saying, and they use that as data to recognize whether or not the creative is good or bad. Okay, that's a problem for me because we just addressed how Meta's data is flawed. So you can't rely. It's the same thing with bid cap and cost cap, right? Which is a whole other conversation. If you're setting parameters based off of data that is flawed, then the whole premise falls apart. So it's the same thing with creative testing. Now you have metrics that you can rely on, metrics you can't rely on. So for us at AdBeacon, we started with attribution, so we prove every single dollar. So that's the base level. Again, back down to the foundation. I think what's interesting too, and again, our approach is different before I even get into AI, is often what media buyers do is they take one creative, so let's just say an image, and they duplicate it like 6-7 times in an ad account, right? They test it against different audiences, whatever it may be, and then they test out different copy and headline, but the image is the same. But normally they only report on how one ad is doing, the top performing ad.
Yeah, like in a flexible ad, if I pull it up, it only brings up the top performing and gives me no data about the other 7.
Correct. So here's the problem with that. Was it the creative? What was it, the image that performed really well? Or was it just the ad within that, audience?
Within that set, yeah.
Correct. So what we did is we pulled the image hash and we're able to say, okay, there are 6 duplicates of this one image. We're just going to negate the copy and all the other aspects. This is how the image is performing. And what unlocks is so much. It's this idea that what if on body with a model performs way better than off body? Or what if a zoomed in shot of a flannel, I've used this example before, performs way better in terms of revenue across the board than on body with the model? You save a lot of money. Or let's just say, okay, one female model drives far more revenue than another female model because you look high level, different images, same model. What works for commercial doesn't necessarily work for e-com. So these insights are next level. So again, start with the base and foundation there. Now transform that into AI, which I will plug Matt Erickson, who is incredible at AI. Like I cannot take recognition for any of this. He is a genius. There's so many people that are testing AI on our team for me so that I can just try to take the credit, right? And like what we can do is we can use different models and AI models to analyze what the good things are about the creative and what are lacking. But I think the best way to go about it is to do a competitive analysis, which is something we were kind of looking to build potentially. And I don't want to leak too much, but the idea is everyone wants to know how to be better.
Yeah.
And then their competition. Well, you need to have it back to back, and you need a system and process to do that for you, to spit out insights immediately. So then you can start testing that. I think AI is going to be a streamlined version to understand what hooks yours versus your competitors. And I do still think testing is necessary. I think that's never going to go away. I think media buying is going to go away.
Yeah.
I don't think creative testing is going to go away, which is scary to talk about.
Is it though? It's like we were talking about in the kitchen. There's going to be an influx of experts, then the best will rise, and then we get updated with the technology and the cycle continues.
Correct. But a lot of people don't like change. So there is that. There's also media buyers are prideful.
No.
You want me to give you the best example
Really?
of this? Okay. I know you're being sarcastic, but
Say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Literally everyone.
Wait, can you say and we'll bleep it? We promise to bleep it.
Okay. Let me think.
Yeah. For sure.
I would say, I mean, prideful is one thing. They have a right to be. They're really powerful
Keep
in the
it
space.
in the room, guys. Oh, this is great.
Everyone, literally everyone,
Yeah.
including me. I'm super prideful. Like, I want to know that my work brought something of value.
Sure.
But okay, back to the point is, I can just sum it up with one thing. Have you ever used the recommendations in Meta?
Yeah. We just did a test on it. Same exact campaign structure. And we did Facebook over. Well, are you talking about for audience targeting?
It doesn't matter. Anything.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I've been testing audience targeting.
And how did anything?
It was like double the cost, right? We did better. Yeah.
You did better. Okay.
Yeah, we did so good.
Oh, wait.
No, but it was a standard stacked. It was basic research, and then I threw 5 stacked audience in there, and I was like, I'm not dying on the stacked audience thing. I was just like, let's just see if that outperforms.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good that you did that, but based off of my poll, I think almost 100%, and this was on Twitter, 100% of people never did it, never used them. So my business partner and I
Never used what? The
recommendations. So my co-founder, he's an agency owner, right?
Yeah.
I'm the tactician. He's the agency owner, which is why it works really well and also horribly sometimes, right? Like it's a beautiful marriage in the sense where we're going to challenge each other. And he was like, well, duh, Phoenix, like the AI and something way smarter than us is recommending something. Wouldn't you do that? And I'm like, no. Number one, a lot of people don't feel like they can trust it. Number two, they have pride that they were the ones that pressed the buttons that generated the results. Not something that's easy, because if it was easy, why do we have a job? But we also notice that the AI isn't as good as it claims to be because it's biased, right? It's built by a platform.
I think Zuck is 30% inflated on how good his things are. What I mean by that is, like, if it's the ROAS, I'm like, or boosted posts. I know there's all good, you could boost a post, and I get it. Understand the functionality of a boosted post.
I don't, but keep going.
Well, so Zuck can make money and train people how to run ads
that
to
point,
then do the. But so I see that Facebook does that, and I'm like, respect. It doesn't bother me because you can make free content, and I've been able to provide for my family just off of free content alone. But I see exactly what's going on there.
Well, let's still use Google as an example. So I did the same poll with Google media buyers or PPC, and none of them use the recommendations in Google. And Google has a far, I would say, trust rate, or I would say it's buy-in rate than Meta right now, right? And people still don't use those recommendations. So before we even created recommendations within AdBeacon, we were very weary about it because who's actually going to do it? You're going to do it with Meta because you're going to try to see an A/B test, which I think is great. But it's pride. And I was, because I had to ask myself the question, like, why wouldn't I use it? Well, first and foremost, it didn't work because we were selling gun holsters from an American company. And the AI enhancements naturally put mariachi music on top of it.
You have to believe this too. We did Magpul, and that was a really interesting situation. All gun holsters.
Really?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
And it played mariachi music, and they are a made in USA brand, right? And I got roasted.
The AI background music?
Yes. And I was like, mother.
I saw that 2 weeks ago, and it was like some like Middle Eastern music and all that, and I was just like, nothing against it, I get it, like, but that's the stock you chose to...
Yeah, see, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is that people naturally resist change, and this is the same thing with AI, and some people are going to embrace it and utilize it in the best way. I also think that AI is meant for small brain energy so that you can use your big brain energy. And if you're using it to do your big brain energy stuff, shame on you, because you don't use it, you lose it, and also it's going to spit out same generic stuff to everybody else, and you're feeding the AI, sure, but again, like, critical thinking should be you.
Yeah.
And that comes down to creative. So if you can have creative processes done by AI, it's going to shift the space completely, and then it's going to boost your creative brain to another level.
Well, let's save someone a year of time if you didn't catch that. So if you let AI do the big brain thinking, you'll never be able to program the AI to do more in-depth things where it's actually needle movers or problem solvers, because you're using it as all generic. So anything that you build that's innovative, it's not going to be at all innovative. It's all going to be generic.
Are you a trend follower or a trend setter?
Yeah.
That's the difference with AI. AI will never be a trend setter. It will always be a trend follower. So we look at attribution, right? Post-purchase versus pre-purchase. We work in the post-purchase world. And unless you can close the loop of the pre-purchase world, it's meaningless. So I see this too, like with TikTok content. I play around with TikTok content all the time, and I do it where I create random hooks that are out of my mind. Great example is there was this probiotic yogurt, and you can only have 2 scoops of it because it's really powerful. So I did a hook, and I took a scoop, and I said, you can only have 2 scoops of this yogurt, and good luck, because it's pretty powerful. And that did so well and went so viral. They had to get 3 more facilities to provide for. Yeah, it started a crazy movement, and I got free yogurt out of it. That's pretty much it. It's fine.
Sounds like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
It was expensive. It's like $10 a jar. But my point is that AI is never going to create that hook.
Yeah.
It's never going to create the hook with the cadence and with the personality of a genuine connection with people, of discovery. We still bring that on a human aspect. But to regenerate that, AI will do that.
Yeah.
So it's a catch-up game, not a, that's what I foresee personally.
That really did help me because I was not that smart about AI. So, cool. Okay. Final thing. Doesn't have to be a long answer. Meta reps. Love them or hate them. I might be doing this so I can have a micro piece of content to send to my clients whenever they tell me to schedule a meeting.
Okay. Ask me again.
Meta reps. What do you think of them?
Straight to voicemail.
There you go. That saved me so much time. Thanks, Phoenix. I think that's everything.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks for coming by.
It's been an honor.
Enjoy the weekend. It'll be great.
You as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Done. Cut. I'm going to give you 20% off. Well, Phoenix is going to give you 20% off your subscription. Click the link in this video, and you can have all the cool things we talked about. Go check them out. We use them. They're the best.
And you only get 20% off through him, so I'm not
Yeah.
for you. Sorry.
Yeah, so there's no seasonal special, so you can only get 20% off here. So check it out.